Afternoon, folks. Welcome back. It's John Pettipas. It's about 5 minutes to 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the afternoon of Tuesday, the 27th day of July, 2021. And I'm doing second media video today. Please bear with me. My subject today is patronage in politics and what effect it has on continents, reserves, provinces, and countries. Patronage in politics. As a media subject, I can't, in all fairness, do a 6 or 7, 8 minute video on this subject. It's a media subject. I was watching it, I think it was Wall Street Week with Louis Verkaiser some years ago. He was a fantastic journalist. And he had a show on Friday night. And one time they had a guest. And I'll never forget that show. It was on PBS out of Owens Mills, Maryland. Owens Mills, Maryland. And on the Mason-Dixon line. Anyway, the guest said, the United States of America has achieved historic and remarkable results because, again, I'm going to repeat, the United States of America has achieved historic and remarkable results because he said, and he wasn't being preachy or partisan, governments essentially did what they were supposed to do. I'm going to repeat that. The United States of America has achieved historic results, but by virtue of the fact, government has essentially done what it was supposed to do. Now, I can look at Africa. I'm going to do a video on Africa someday. I have tremendous faith in the future of Africa. Young population, you got climate, young resourceful population. But Africa over the years has been held back, and people will criticize me for saying this, and so be it. It doesn't fit me one bit. It's the truth. I'm going to use some examples here. Some people will take offense by it. Well, whoop-de-doo. Nothing I can do about it. Africa's been held back by tribalism. Tribalism, one tribe over another in countries and among nations. That really held back the development in Africa. Native reserves in Nova Scotia I'm aware of. Many of them. I went to school with a girl, Darlene Prosper. Brilliant girl. And she should have been chief there years ago. She eventually did get elected to council, but there are many chiefs that were far inferior to her that get re-elected repeatedly. She would have been a fine chief, but jealousy. People were jealous of the Prospers, which Darlene's maiden name is Prosper, and jealous of Laffords. Interestingly, one of her nephews did get elected chief, and great progress has been made at Peckentuck up here. It's under him, and the council and the people. So they things got in a better form than what they had been at some points in the past. I remember late Irving Schwartz pointing out members who in Sydney said, "Boy, they're doing good." This is back in about 15, 20 years ago, and they're still doing good. Yes, are they ever, Johnny said. They should run Sydney. They should run, that was an exact quote. Late Irving Schwartz said, they should be running Sydney. Sydney would be better governed if the folks that members who came in and ran it. Okay, up in Truro, the power centre comes to mind. They've done remarkable. They've had the advantage of highways and all, but they took advantage and developed where their site was, and it's to their great credit. So, I can use some examples here. And I never get into petty crap of reporting to somebody. One little guy, such a cocky little prick, call him for what he is, okay, take the grader home. Actually, he's not too little, okay, it wouldn't hurt him if he lose a few pounds. Take the grader home to his road up the road not too far from here. The hell with the French families up Merlin. The hell with the Wallaces. They're not the rich Irish families. Let them, they're good. The French families up there are good drivers, and the Wallaces, they're resourceful people as well. Let them work around the potholes or the inadequately ditched roads, whatever. He took graded roads. He took the grader home. So I stopped the supervisor one day, supervisor going by in the truck. And I said, so-and-so's taking the grader home twice to grade the road. And he looked at me, looked in the seat, and he said, John, you're wrong. What do you mean I'm wrong? I know this for a fact. He took the grader home twice to grade his own road. And he held up his fingers and he smiled. He said, John, 3 times. Not twice, but 3 times. Oder twa, 3 times. Apparently they can tell where the stuff goes. They're giving an order in the morning where the machines go. And there's a GPS or something. I didn't realize that. But anyway, he said, that's an example. I think of a lady just up the road here And she's one of the kindest, finest, most honest lady, teacher, by far, one of the finest teachers I've ever known. And she's gone so far, she'd be embarrassed to hear me say this, I'm not going to use her name. She makes pies and lots of other nice products, but she'd buy coats for people in the school district she was in. She'd buy jackets for kids from big families, or maybe the father was a disability, or the mother was a single mother. Extraordinary. She came from Inverness and went to New Waterford. I'm going to name the town. And you'll see in New Waterford, there's the mine shut in Inverness. There's a Roaches Road on the way into New Waterford. There's Larads, Chessons, and they're all people from French people from Shettycamp area. There's Beatons and Kennedys and Frasers. And she was over there. That particular family in Inverness was liberal. And she's a remarkable teacher, and she couldn't get a job. They wouldn't hire her. She's a liberal. Tories are in. So anyway, she took out a Tory card or whatever and let Mike Laughlin, who was a decent fellow on his own, but part of the patronage system under John Buchanan, that she was voting Tory and going to be Tory, and she got hired. Okay? Now look at Anakin Ish. Anakin Ish, man oh man. Part of it's true ethnicity, and the other part is patronage. There's very little free enterprise in Anakin Ish. So what are you talking about? If you're not at the university, hospital, justice system, natural resources, fisheries, what else is there? And there's very few, if any, quite rare to have a two-income household that one of them doesn't work in a government job. Contrast that up to Cumberland County. They're doing manufacturing. I know an example. I'm going to digress here a bit. Back in the 70s, a guy got a grant. It was called DRE, Department of Regional Economic Expansion. And he was doing frozen strawberries. Frozen strawberries. I think at one point he might have cauliflower or broccoli. But frozen strawberries for sure, and put them in containers. And he made a comment. A salesman was in the store one night and said, get the second hand it. Well, there was a big sign out front. This expansion of $50,000 or whatever at this strawberry processing, a small strawberry processing plant, was very enterprising family. And they take and was supported by DRE. The government of Canada said, well, if I was on social assistance or government employee, would I have a sign out in front of my house saying, I get paid by the taxpayer? He was a little bit peeved on that one, but such is the case. I can think of a guy that worked at Mulgrew Machine for years and didn't like Alan J. They got a little bit of money back in the 70s to build a new dome, get out a wooden barn to do their fabrication, welding stuff. It's hard to weld as you get fabricating bigger stuff in a wooden barn. So they take, I don't know if you now do that now, but they take, it's too many rules out there, but nice dome, and did well. Now his son has a wife in BC that was making $50,000 a year in the land registry, and under Christy Clark contracted out. People don't like to hear that word. Contracted out, and some private company took the job for $20,000. Was outsourced overseas. I don't think they could go overseas, but they did it a lot less than. Didn't like. Oh, I can't repeat. It was not very nice words. What they called the Liberal Premier BC. Interestingly, probably in my lifetime, the most conservative governments in Canada would have to be Clyde Wells in Newfoundland. Certainly Steve McNeil, who are people will decide the fate. If this government can get elected a third time, and there's a reasonable, it's no shoo-in, it's a tight election to put it mildly, but there's a possibility, at least a chance, they may get elected a third time. It's quite interesting that the government that gave Nova Scotia, not perfect, not without faults and perfect, but basically didn't give the store away or spend nutty like John Buchanan. It'd be quite remarkable that in democracy, Bill Gillis said, John, democracy is a very delicate thing. Another very conservative government would have to be Christy Clark in BC. And of course, Preston Manning, the saintly Preston Manning, whose father, Ernest Manning, under social credit, not a socialist crew, social credit, ran Alberta for something like 20, preached the gospel of God and saved precious souls for Jesus Sunday on the radio broadcast, outreach ministry, and the other 5.5, 6 days a week, run the province of Alberta. And he ran it for 20, 25 years, social credit. And conversely, Ralph Klein, he was the first NDP government that came in. By far, he was the first NDP government to come in, was Ralph Klein. He spent like a fool. As did John Buchanan. John Buchanan was the first NDP government spending-wise in this province. Okay, so anyway, they take, so I use the example of the guy with the grater, use the example of the lady with Michael Effin, use the example of Anakin Ish, and people can like or dislike President Trump. He's brought home and will bring back more in the second term in 2024, manufacturing in the United States. An economy that doesn't have manufacturing is weak. Tourism is wonderful, but tourism's like rice. You can put raisins in it, do it in orange juice, do it in consomme if you want to have a bunch of salt in your system. And no, do it in tomato juice, whatever. You can add broad beans to it or spinach, not spinach, but Swiss chard like I do. But you can't live on rice alone. You have to have protein, meat, hamburger, fish, whatever. And so, does not like manufacturing to make a solid economy. Germany post-World War II, manufacturing. Japan. And you take in... they're going to digress here for a second. Nazis. Okay? A lot of dictatorships are very corrupt. Communist China. All these communist Chinese you see over here in universities, they are the kids, sons and daughters, there's more sons than daughters because the girls get aborted or sent out and to be adopted, okay? One-child policy. Now they're looking to reverse that, but it's hard to, after you've been one system for a long time, it's hard to reverse it. But it's a hateful, miserable system. It's something like the Mormons used to have, they call it, they have more than one wife, okay? More than one wife. Yeah, what about the guy who doesn't have any wife and the other guy has 3 or 4? Mitt Romney's grandfather was like that. I said they should have left the son of a whore back in Mexico rather than let him across the border. And we wouldn't have had the last election in 2012. Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's a bit like Tim Houston. I hear very few people speak well of Tim Houston. And I heard nobody speak well of Mitt Romney in the presidential election in 2012. There was great respect for John McCain, 2008. Vietnam hero. 2012, nobody taught much of Mitt Romney. I remember that distinctly. Okay, so it would have been best if polygamy grandfather had been left across and we never had like the Rhino Republican be up here now. And anyway, back to the thing here. Patronage and politics. Just this afternoon, I told you the other day that the NDP guy is running around Gary Burrell just like a kid at a high school running for Winter Carnival for King. Okay, having a great time. He told the people if NDP government's elected, they're going to have a hospital in North Sydney and New Waterford again. And might not be popular to say, but they're getting a clinic. Multi-hundred million dollar investment between North Sydney, replace North Sydney General, and New Waterford Hospital. And clinics for diabetes, chemotherapy maybe, or not chemotherapy, excuse me, but dialysis, I misspoke, not chemotherapy, dialysis, stuff like this here. They take, and so he can go around and say whatever the hell he wants. But patronage in politics. The United States of America has achieved historic results, remarkable results, because government did essentially what it was supposed to do. And if the government of now Ian Rankin, who by virtue of winning the leadership is the de facto premier right now, if he's elected 3 weeks from today, and it's a big if, there's no guarantee, but there's a possibility, gets re-elected, it's no cakewalk by any means, by any stretch of imagination, it'll show that democracy does work, that people have elected a government again, although not perfect, you can find all kinds of faults and criticize, but has done their best not to give the house away. Interestingly, we have former Danny Williams in Newfoundland. He totally gave the store away and overspent everybody and everything, and Newfoundland is facing some real hard decisions. So that's my video on patronage and politics. I know you'll never take patronage out of politics. John Savage tried to do that and got us out of Harrigan for 14 years and 3 months, so you're going to have a bit of it. But man, oh man, when stuff is decided purely on the basis of patronage, it's not good. With that, I got to go. I've been on this for almost 14 minutes now, so I better wrap this up. Thank you for your time. This video will air later this week. Thank you. All the best. You can vote anytime from now on. Get out and vote. Encourage your sons, daughters, husbands, wives, in-laws, outlaws. Encourage them to get out and vote. Thank you very much. All the best. God bless. And please press the subscribe button. Thank you.